I felt like I had a lot to say a couple weeks ago, and recently I've been watching a lot of SBN Resonate, and I've really related to his videos, but I don't know if it's the incapability of um, I'm trying to remember the word. The incapability of articulating it, articulating the relatableness. It's kind of like my brain is really lazy, and I'd rather just feel the resonation than explain it. And it'd be tedious to explain it because I relate to it and it's at a depth that I would have to explain how I relate to it, if that makes sense. It's like when he speaks about having thought from every angle and felt everything already, or gone through everything already, and the repetition of it all, I really felt that, and I've written about it, and that's part of the reason I felt inspired to create my own channel. But I feel like it's almost ironic because the possibility of creating this channel kind of killed my thoughts of what I wanted to talk about. Because I got excited that there is a community in which people would understand me. I think just knowing there was a community kind of soothed me into not feeling like I would have to make videos to reach out to people. Or, yeah, but like, I still want to contribute to add, because it's not like the community's that big, and I don't even know what community this is called really, but I guess people that think similarly, and you can come from it from any pathway. Like some people come from the Doomer pathway, or I see it's mostly like men that watch these types of videos. I don't think I've seen a woman make these types of videos. There's like a lot of different pathways. In my research of whatever I was seeking, I came from the perspective of self-help and spirituality and sociology, and kind of rejecting politics. And I'm not really sure how I found my way, or I possibly found my way into MGTOW, or MGTOW, and that type of stuff from looking into, people's opinions on masculinity and femininity these days. And so I've been watching this so-called like incel culture, and people named right-wing extremists and stuff, and luckily or fortunately, it came at a point where my judgments have really decreased a lot. So I've been more interested in listening than actively judging, because at the end of the day, there's just a huge misconception that judging changes things, or it's all black and white. I don't agree with everything, but it's certainly been interesting as a woman to see the types of perspectives I've seen, and I definitely sincerely understand some of the issues and believe that they are real. And that's all to say, I guess, the similarness that these perspectives come into this truth-seeking mode. And in regards to what I was seeking, I guess I was seeking a form of self-improvement, and the guidance to something higher than myself. So a lot of it has been through spirituality and, you know, believing in like spirit guides and like alien contact and stuff like that, which I kind of, you know, really got on board of a lot of things because it's so repetitive and a lot of people make different promises. And, you know, if you're in the like conspiracy theory community and you know people have been collecting certain evidence for decades and decades, and most of it we all just sit with, and we think we know, and we make the them versus us, and like the truthers versus the sheeple and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, mostly what passes is just time, and you have to make your life, and the amount of truth, it doesn't really affect your day by day. So that's something I'm coming to terms with, is just that I feel I've mentally changed, and you know, my values have changed, a lot has changed, but at the end of the day, I guess there are some things that I still have to do. Not to compete in the rat race, but just to have the average comfort, the average comfortable life, to get through it all. I'm trying not to take myself so personally anymore, because our identities, well, it depends on your belief. I'm of the belief that our identities themselves are chosen. Something in us chooses them, or something else chooses them. But basically, it's just like a role down here. And the roles aren't aimed for perfection, because consciousness wants to experience itself in infinity, and you can't experience yourself in infinity if everything's perfect. So everything has to be different, and when things are different, you get duality, and when you get duality, you get the perception of imperfection versus perfection. So the idea that you come down here and you start complaining that you're not perfect, or you feel bad that you're not perfect, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like some sort of curse here, or it's like fear got to us. Fear happened at some point, and then it just got passed down. And then when you're born, you're given all these expectations and told that you have to do things perfectly, or shown that you have to do things perfectly. Something that irritates me is there not being room for humans to make mistakes. And that might be cliche, and you might hear it all the time, but it really clicks. It's like when you're trying to do something new in public, or you're somewhere new in public and you don't know the correct etiquette or the rules, and you're just trying to do it. Like, sometimes I have to travel with trains, and I'm not familiar with the place, so I may not press the right buttons, or I might not get off on the right stop. And there's a sort of stupidity that sometimes people will throw at you, or you can feel their opinion. And, you know, the unfairness that we're all born, and, you know, maybe past lives are real. I believe in past lives. I believe all time is simultaneous, so, but we all feel new. Most of us feel new, or even if you're like an old soul, there are times where you don't know something, and you're just not allowed to not know things here, and you're not allowed to try. I think, you know, maybe when you're a kid you are, but even then, a lot of people are very rude and judgmental and mean to children, and act like children are small adults, even though children have a completely different, you know, brain development. They're literally learning, and people will be upset that they, like, spill their drink, or they're, like, writing on the walls, because their mind isn't solidified into this kind of reality. You know, I feel like children experience the world as a dream, and so when they do things like write on the walls, it makes sense as much as when we're in a dream and we turn and we're in a different location. or like a plate turns into a bird or something. I think children see the world that way, and adults are so in this, in the adult world where everything has the rules already, and where the dream has faded, that they're mean to children for not seeing the world as solid and constrained in like a prison. But yeah, I've been trying not to take myself so personally, and like understanding that some aspects are just, like this is just me and I'm supposed to be me. And you're born and you're supposed to be you. And the idea that you were born as something else and you're supposed to spend your whole life trying to become something, it doesn't make sense. I feel like regardless if you believe in God or not, like even from an evolutionary standpoint, wouldn't evolution have made you to be what you need to be for you? But then we compare ourselves to other people and other expectations and other successes. And we take ourselves so personally when we don't even know why or how we're here. So why would it matter? Why are you so attached to being good and showing you are someone when you don't even know the answers to the biggest questions? It's like an assumption that the reason is we are built to accomplish things. I'm trying not to take myself personally, because when I take myself personally, am I saying this right? Personal? I'm trying not to take myself so personal. Because when I do, then I get super attached to my failures, or perceived failures. And most of the time the failures are just taking my time with things, and not indulging in the experience. I'm someone that likes to get things done once, or I only need to do it a couple of times, or I already know I never want to do it, so I don't want to do it. And I started getting hard on myself, thinking, why aren't you smart enough? Why don't you work hard enough? And why don't things come as easy? Or why are you depressed and things like that? It's like, maybe you just don't need an answer, you just have to think, well, this is how it is. This is how I am. I'm not saying identify with it, but I feel like when you've lived with yourself long enough, you start to realize that the things you try to change with all your might, a lot of it is like beyond habit, and it's stuff that it's just a part of you. Like I can procrastinate a lot, and I don't think it's worth continuously hating myself for it. I just have to know that whatever this is, whatever I am, that's just part of my future. And I have to kind of learn to love or respect or just sit with that future. You don't have to hate it or love it. And it's like people are really holding on to themselves as if they really made themselves. As if they chose themselves. As if it's all from them. And I feel like some things are randomized. And some things can be like genetic. But I don't think people that are the best at things really made themselves as much as they think. Or the people that strive to be the best at things, the really confident people that believe it all came from them. I believe that that is the evidence of God. That our difference is the evidence of God. There's something that is moving within us, that's moving us, that's controlling us, that gives us our different personalities. And I guess you would call it the glory of God. I've never been religious. I've never read the Bible. But that's part of my journey is letting go of the hardship talk and the expectation of myself to somehow have had control over my circumstance and the way I was born and the way I was raised and the way I react and the way I still don't do some of the things I'm supposed to have done at this age. There's been a lot of introspection time, which I'm proud of, because I do think that I'm a smart individual and I trust what I think. And not for the reason to convince someone or be better or be a better thinker than someone else as a competition or be a teacher, but just to understand life in a way that makes sense. And it's kind of inevitable, I think. I think everyone has these questions, it's just, some people will come up with like a 5,000 word essay for an answer. And some people will come up with 100 words. Some people, that's just part of all of our journeys and thought processes, whatever made us, said that, some people really need a well thought out answer and some people don't. And it's to get through life. It's all to get through the same life things. We all, travel in our heads and we make out things and wonder about stuff. Then in the outside world, you still have to be perfect and pay rent and stuff. So in some ways, we're all on the same playing field, no matter what. I used to really hold on to suffering or wanting things, desires, and being like, when is it my turn, and why can't I have this, and why did that person get it, and why did these people do that to me? And then it's like, I don't like that feeling. I understand it, and I can talk about how it's justified, but I don't like the feeling. And I know if it happens, it'll happen again. So I try to make myself a person that, might want something, but if it doesn't come, I accept it. I accept, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, or something like that. And that tells me not to take myself so personal, or what happens to me so personal, and kind of neutralize all those types of frequencies that lead to depression. And it just helps you move on. Especially if you've been, it's tied to people and you're dealing with people, and it's about like apologies and trauma and stuff, you're waiting for people to change, and they always say just enough that you think they might get it. Recently, I went to this event, and afterwards I wrote about it, and it was something that was really personal to me, and like one of my core beliefs of this idea that we are all witnesses to each other, and that's all that this is. And we don't choose what we're, drawn to or guided to like. Or sometimes we do, but even the choosing was chosen before you chose it. And some of the people at that event liked the post. And it felt like after that, I didn't have anything else to say to anyone at all. Because that's just like really one of my core beliefs. And now it almost feels like I'm a kid again. But not in the happy, like, free sense that most people get nostalgic about, like when things are simpler. I just remember when I was a kid, I would sit alone a lot. And I'm not even sure what I thought about, but I guess there was a sense of not being a person yet. This is before I really analyzed and kind of made the story for my anger and sadness and suffering. This is when I was going through it, but I hadn't realized that it was affecting me. And I just remember like going to school and just doing things because it was what I was supposed to do. And there were certain things that I did like. But I think at that age, when you're so young, the opportunities are small enough that the desire isn't so big that it can ruin you. Because the desire would be like, I really want this award in class, or I want this book. I kind of feel that emptiness now. I wouldn't say it's like out of body, but it's kind of like I'm just silent. I'm as silent as I was then, as if, I really don't have any plans. I'm doing things I feel I might have to do or would be beneficial in the future. It's kind of doing things because I know in the future, the time will pass anyway. It's almost like a plan B. And I'm doing it so it'll be done. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it, and the time would pass and I would think, I should have done it. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically it's like not sincerely living in the present, but just doing things because I know the future will come. Like going to school. It's not really sincere. It's not ill-intentioned, but it's not passionate. And I don't know. I kind of just feel like a ghost. I'm really not depressed, it's just like, I don't get how other people feel when it comes to life. I don't know if they feel it as solid, or if they think of it as fate. I mean, even if they say their beliefs, it's like you'll never be inside another person to truly feel their belief. And I mean like the energy of that belief. Because to me, I feel like so much of life is an illusion. And I mean that in such a logical sense that it's crazy when people think you're crazy for saying this. It's like you only have the present, and when you think of the past is an illusion. And it's tied to a story that you make up and you continue. You're remembrance. And I think it's just insane that your life is mostly memories. This is what I mean. Like, I can't, how can I feel solid when what happened is not solid? It's not real. It's real, but it's so passing that we are just in the agreement of remembering the deep narratives. to keep the story. But what would happen if we agreed to drop the stories? It's almost like I'm not here for anything but as, to be a member of my own life or of consciousness. And that's something else I think about is being born here. And you're kind of just existing to keep systems in place. It's kind of like one of those machines that's in a constant loop, like the cat that, it's like a cat piggy bank that like takes a coin. I don't remember how it works. There's like a cat piggy bank that like takes a coin, and the act of it taking the coin does something, and it's just like in a loop. And we are in a loop with the systems of like, we use the systems exist, the systems need people to use it, so we use the systems. And I feel like I'm just like a body, or we're all just bodies that are made to remember rules and pay fees to create the systems, to validate the systems, to keep the loop going. This is not a place that is for the evolution of humans. It is for us. We are not using the systems. The systems are using us. This is about keeping the systems running. And maybe that's funny. Maybe this isn't profound. Maybe you've heard this before, but I feel like no one has explained it in the way that I'm thinking. And I really dislike this idea. I'm not anti-natalist, by the way. But I don't like the idea of having children and thinking now they need to learn everything that has already happened. Or just like learn stupid shit that doesn't quote unquote matter. It's like having a child and then making them learn the history of the entire world. And like telling them all the stories, like making them read like all these stories. Like I'm not into education either. I'm just saying there's like a certain way that we treat children and honor and respect this reality, so much so that we forget that you could do anything. When babies are here, they could have a completely new life that is released from expectations and is so different from what everyone else has already been born through and raised in. But instead we put them in school and we just loop ourselves in insanity. And it's not even progressive. And what would you call it is progressive now, in a positive sense? It's like we have technology, but a lot of the technology is supposed to be convenient and just inconvenient, or has restructured our brains and taken away things. There's a writer, I think her name is Mary Harrington. She talks about progress not being real because what we're doing is making trade-offs. It's not like we're adding an additional thing. I think Marshall McLuhan also, was an early explainer and like lecturer on this idea that people thinking we can add things to reality, but we replace things, and that changes our habits. And it's not that we're progressing. It's just that things are different. And I think there's just a lot of optimism, or there was a lot of optimism and hope that, in lifetimes things could change, but not. I feel like that kind of sincere optimism got hijacked by a lot of like social justice warriors that are really trying to cram 100 years of quote unquote progress in a decade and are slamming anyone that wants to debate it or disagrees. And there's just like a lot of anxiety and confusion now. And they won't take responsibility for the anxiety and confusion because they think everyone else is like the bigot that's in the way of their perfect utopia. But the truth is, once we get to the other side, if we implemented all of these, so-called progressive beliefs, you have no idea what's going to happen, and you have no idea what you're playing with essentially. And you think that the idea of like man and woman is outdated. That you don't even know where we came from. Or you think you know, and you think you're smarter than that. You think you're smarter than all the billions of years that would produce us to be here, and that it'd be okay to change that. And that it wouldn't have any effects on gender or on families or on children. And I would be called the bigot for saying that. And I'm not asking for harm on anyone, but I am asking that there is clear discussion to get down to what is the essential problem and what you're really wanting, and the concerns that are valid. That's what I don't like. There's just like a lot of anxiety about being human because you can't figure out things. You can't allow to have never done something. You can't be allowed to have never done something and to try it in front of someone else. And you can't talk about things because then you're giving the identity of, bad or good. Which is ironic because, like, a lot of people are religious now. And they make a lot of jokes about, like, Sky Daddy and stuff like that. But they're also the people that are acting like God and judging in the way of, like, you're good, you're bad, you're gonna go to hell, you're gonna go to heaven. And this is what you deserve, and this is what you don't deserve. You say what I believe, you didn't keep your job. You think against what I believe, you don't get your job. You don't take this shot, you can't keep your job. I forget which writer was talking about this. See, I research a lot, but I don't keep track of the names, really, or the channels. But, and sometimes it could just be like a LinkedIn tweet. But they were talking about the anxiety humans also have because we know we would be incapable of surviving in the wilderness. Like, at our basic instinctual levels. And even above that, like, when we started really being human and being able to build, like, cabin houses and, like, hunting gear, things like that, to the very, like, self-sufficient type of stuff. People don't know how to do that anymore. And underneath that, there is anxiety. That, like, if the grocery store runs out of food, I would be unable to fend for myself. If I had to protect myself, I would be unable to do that because these basic instincts of, like, survival have been so repressed, and we've been so dependent on convenience in society with these, like, animal urges and instincts, and, like, just basic knowledge has been wiped clean, and it's felt, like, unneeded. And we get anxiety and feel insecure because we know, like, that basic foundation of knowledge is not there. And no matter how many degrees you have and, like, how good your job is, I think you would still have that anxiety. And you would know that you are not a quote-unquote, like, good animal. You're not a capable animal. You might appear to be an impressive human, but you are not a capable animal. And when it comes to things like that, that's why there's, like, so much groupthink and people get